Hello, welcome to TeleSUR in English. I am Janet Perez Moya. Let's begin. Authorities of Venezuela's Supreme Court of Justice kicked off the 2021 judicial year this Friday. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has announced that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will present the article of impeachment against Donald Trump on Monday. In India, talks between the government and protesting farmers ended abruptly without making any progress. In Venezuela, the authorities of the Supreme Court of Justice kicked off the 2021 judicial year this Friday with a ceremony that brought together the legitimate representative of the 5 branches of government for the first time since the parliamentary elections of December 6th. During the ceremony held on the headquarters of the country's top court, the president of the judicial branch, Michael Moreno, highlighted the commitment of the institution to fight against impunity in the case of misappropriation of the country's resources by the far right through a parallel government backed by the United States. The magistrate emphasized that this purpose does not contradict the will for the dialogue and the reconciliation expressed by the leaders of the national government. For his part, President Nicolás Maduro highlighted the strengthening of Venezuela's institution in the face of international attacks.
In the Trumpist era, a parallel state has been intended, and it is intended to maintain the lines of a parallel state that does not exist in Venezuela and is ineffective, irritating, null in Venezuela. That is why it is so important that alongside the resistance of the people, the economic, spiritual, moral, social, and economic resistance of the people in the face of the onslaught of imperialist aggression. There has been a national state also in active resistance, and today we can say in this installation of the year 2021, the national state has triumphed. Venezuela today has a national state that is also in active resistance, economic, social resistance of that people against the onslaught of imperialist aggression. There has been a national state also in active resistance, and today we can say in this installation of the year 2021, the national state has triumphed. Venezuela today is stronger from the constitutional point of view, from the point of view of its institutions, and we are facing an increasingly strengthened judiciary.
This Friday, Bolivia celebrates the 12th anniversary of the establishment of the Plurinational State, born with the new constitution that recognized the indigenous peoples and their cultures. President Luis Arce Catacora had the commemorative events on the occasion of the 12th anniversary of the Plurinational State. During the event, held in an unprecedented manner due to the pandemic, the 4 state powers, as well as social and campesino organizations, agreed on the objectives to reach the unity and social rights stage. In 2010, former President Evo Morales issued a decree that set the date as the Day of the Plurinational State to lay to the foundations of a free, democratic, and inclusive government.
The coup d'etat of 2019 tried to extinguish intercultural democracy from the first hours of its government, seeking to take us back to the Republican state and the elimination of the symbols of the plurinational state, like our huipala, which was cut, trampled, and burned. Also, since November 2019, the old neoliberal economic model was reinstated with devastating results that we are still facing.
President Arce also praised the high level of awareness of the Bolivian people that allowed the rehabilitation of democracy in 2020.
Thanks to the awareness and unity of the Bolivian people in its struggle on October 18, 2020, after all the attempts of the de facto government to extend its term, the general elections were held, and with the resounding result of the ballot box, the democratic constitutional order was reestablished, after much pain and bloodshed in a grim period of our history that was characterized by systemic persecution, prosecution, trial, illegal detentions, suspensions of the most basic guarantees and liberties of human beings. We restore our democracy. The victory belongs to the Bolivian people.
Vice President David Choquehuanca stated that the Bolivian government is working to guarantee the common good and regain the people's trust.
All the efforts of our government, headed by our brother President Luis Arce Catacora, are focused on the common good, on welfare, and on restoring security and confidence to our people. Thanks to the awareness and democratic will of our people, we are working on the reconstruction of a state that is increasingly participatory, increasingly democratic, and increasingly exclusive.
In Haiti, popular protests are growing against juvenile Moises government's insistence on amending the constitution to extend his mandate until 2022. Popular movements are insisting on street mobilization to reject the bill promoted by the president, whose proposal is sponsored by the Organization of American States and the government of United States. The demonstrators stress that Moises' presidential terms should end on February 7 in accordance with the constitutional mandate. Police forces have carried out repressive actions against recent demonstrations calling by the president's resignation, including using tear gas to disperse protesters. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will transmit the article of impeachment on Monday. Once the article is sent, the Senate will start holding a trial to determine whether Donald Trump should be convicted of incitement of insurrection. If Trump is convicted, could be blocked from seeking federal office again. Make no mistake, a trial will be held in the United States Senate and there will be a vote on whether to convict, Schumer said. It will be a full trial. It will be a fair trial. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has proposed delaying the trial until February to give Trump more time to prepare his defense. Portuguese voters will head to the polls to choose a president on Sunday in the context of a coronavirus lockdown. The country of 10 million people this week has been breaking daily records in virus death toll, with 221 fatalities on Thursday. On Wednesday, Portugal hit a record of over 14,600 new cases in one day. The upsurge in the new infections is mainly the result of the spread of the more contagious strain first discovered in Britain. Candidates and observers fear a record low voters turnout in a bid to boost participation among the 9.8 million registered voters, including 1.5 million abroad. The electoral authorities organized an unprecedented early voting day last Sunday. Tens of volunteers went door to door to collect ballots from over 13,000 people quarantined.
Life cannot stop. Even with COVID-19, elections must be maintained. On the one hand, we have to fight against COVID, but on the other hand, we have to think about the future of our country. Life cannot stop. Because of the pandemic, there will be a lot of abstention. This is not good, really not good. These are difficult times.
In Spain, the Housing Assembly of Madrid's Carabanchel district has denounced the continued evictions being conducted despite the decree law that prohibited them in December. Members of social movements have warned that the legal loopholes in the decree law have left thousands of families unprotected and at risk of being left on the street. Given the situation, the Housing Assembly and popular organizations are fighting to prevent evictions and stress that the social service and government have failed to offer a decent housing alternative to families who have already been evicted from their homes. In Peru, representative of Health Union rallied in front of the Health Ministry headquarters for the 10th consecutive day. Union reps have stressed that the national government has not complied with the implementation of the third salary scale scheduled for the month of January 2020. The salary scale was an agreement made by the national government with the health professionals in 2020 after widespread protests, which so far, according to health professionals, has not been complied by the state authorities. Health workers are also denouncing a lack of COVID-19 tests for medical personnel, in addition to warning of the high rate of hospital bed occupancy in the country. In Chile, the government of Sebastián Piñera acknowledged the critical situation of the country's hospital system. Authorities of the Ministry of Health warned about the decrease in the number of beds in intensive care centers due to the increase in the levels of contagions. The situation has collapsed the hospital systems in several regions of the country. Regional health authorities report that hospitals are over 90% occupied and the medical supplies are running out. They warn that the systems also lacks a strategy to decrease the levels of contagions, while they request the government to provide medical supplies and to multiply individual prevention measures.
We are concerned especially in the regions. One of the regions with the highest number of cases is Antofagasta. I called and they told me that there were cases that were delayed because the laboratories did not report them in time, and it is worrying, and I take the opportunity to call the population to continue to maintain sanitary measures and avoid the collapse of the hospitals.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has noted that the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which came into effect this Friday, is an important step towards the goals of a world free of nuclear weapons and a strong demonstration of support for multilateral approach to nuclear disarmament.
I am pleased to recognize today's entry into force of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the first multilateral nuclear disarmament treaty in more than 2 decades. The treaty is an important step towards the goal of a world free of nuclear weapons and a strong demonstration of support for multilateral approaches to nuclear disarmament. I commend the states that have ratified the treaty and welcome the instrumental role of civil society in advancing negotiation and entry into force. The survivors of nuclear explosions and nuclear tests offered tragic testimonies and were a moral force behind the treaty. Entry into force is a tribute to their enduring advocacy. I look forward to carrying out the functions assigned by the treaty, including in preparation for the first meeting of states parties. Nuclear weapons pose growing dangers and the world needs urgent action to ensure their elimination and prevent the catastrophic human and environmental consequences any use would cause. The elimination of nuclear weapons remains the highest disarmament priority of the United Nations. I call on all states to work together to realize this ambition to advance common security and collective safety.
In India, talks between the government and protesting farmers ended abruptly. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar asked farmers to reconsider their rejection of a government offered 2 days ago to set up a committee to look into their concerns about the law, triggering the biggest farmers' protest in years. Tomar said he had nothing more to offer than an 18-month suspension on the contentious agriculture reforms law. Farmers' organizations announced they will not accept anything other than the repeal of the 3 laws. No date was set for another round of talks between the government and protest leaders. Tens of thousands of farmers have been blocking highways connecting the capital with the country's north for nearly 2 months. Protesters have threatened to intensify their protests by organizing a massive tractor rally in New Delhi during Public Day celebrations next Tuesday. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website telesurenglish.net. You can join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram.